Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Tuesday. It is September the 11th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And strong rally today, about a 25-point rally, almost straight up. Usually you want a good healthy angle at a 45-degree angle. We were fairly steep here, and then we even went steeper here on the second leg. And just to show you this, there was my first leg. So once we started going higher, you'd look for a possible measured leg, which puts you right in here. And we actually went a little bit higher than that before we kind of tried to sell off the rest of the day. So we had a little downtrend the rest of the day. But not a lot of trades today. There's not a lot of entries here, but when you find one, they really work. And normally these would not be marked. They'd probably be green. I marked them blue. And just to explain to you why, this is a very strong trend, and it was pretty obvious right in here. When you start to see all these little bars and lots of stems and dojis mixed in, but they just keep going higher and higher with very little corrections, those are strong trends. And you're not going to get big corrections. And if you get a big two-legged correction like that, that is generally the center of the pattern, and you can expect probably at least an attempt at another leg up, and generally you're probably going to get it if that's the center of the pattern. And you can see there's a clear two measured legs there. Um, Honestly, I might even risk a long here, but the reason I didn't was because you could have looked at this. This could have been the second swing, and this still fits right here as a trend line. So it was a little bit, I was a little bit leery going long there with that because we may push on down a little bit. It was just hard to determine where exactly we may reverse. And notice the next bar, we're not really going anywhere. We're kind of still below here. So I was a little bit leery of going long right there. Looking at it after the fact, I wish I'd have taken that trade, because if you catch that, you ride this all the way. Clearly. Um, but at the time, looking at everything we've got here, you probably can't take that trade. So I didn't mark it. But what you'll notice here is some of these that don't look like good setups. This is a this could be a spike in channel, but it looks more like a midline to me. And then really, once you had your middle of your pattern, we really just started a new trend, and it's even steeper. People realize this is a strong day, and once they realize the next leg's heading up, they're all getting on board. And look at it go. You don't even hardly get any corrections here. It just goes straight up. So the point I'm trying to make is, on this trend up, once you realize this is one of those type trends, every time it comes back to a key entry point like this midline and gives you a bullish bar, whether even if it's not a second entry, even if it's right into the eyes, you just about have to take it. Because if you don't, you won't get an entry, and you'll just watch this go and go and go without you. These days are really harder for most people because you don't get any real corrections. And two, people are always trying to buy tops, so they just keep getting, every time they try to go short, they get burned. And it's really hard to find a long entry because it just doesn't have the same characteristics of what your usual ES would have. And so these can be hard days for people. But just remember, if you recognize that by this time in the afternoon, you should have recognized it. There's even a little pullback right there, but it's not at a key entry point. And so I was a little leery of it. And earlier, you could have seen this line down here, and that's right into it. So, but in the end, I think it was this swing right here. And you can see that we touched it two more times, and we finally corrected. So it was a little, that far away from the EMA, not being at a key entry point, possibly being into the trend channel line. You probably don't want to risk that one. But if it comes back to a key entry point like this midline, the EMA, and it gives you a bullish signal bar, you just about have to take it. Otherwise, you're just not going to get entry. But let's back out, make this a little bigger, and we'll go over today's trades. When I came in, we were working down. So right at 7 o'clock, there's a little setup here. Notice that there's a new swing high, and you had a first entry, and then you had a second entry, and it actually went higher, failed, and turns out and goes out the other side. just go short right there, one tick below that bar, and be ready in case it goes through, which it did. I don't know if I would go short right there because we've bounced here too many times. You really want to have enough room. But because it's a trap, I'd probably, actually, you wouldn't have got in this because notice how it gaps over right there. There's no overlap. And so you probably wouldn't have got filled until it came back. So it still would have worked on the way back down. So you could have considered putting a stop here. Actually, it may not have been enough room here. It would have bounced again, but it would have kept going. So, but do you have the fortitude to ride out that bounce again? I probably would only enter this one tick. When it went higher and it starts turning down, I'd go ahead and put a sell stop there in case it went through on the same bar. And if it did, I'd probably enter. And it was a quick, easy move. Comes back. I drew this arrow here to point this out. Your key entry point was right here, but you keep bouncing down here, so there's a lot of buying coming in right here, and this is not a very good signal bar. It's too much stem there, so I would want to wait on a little better entry. Comes back again, makes another lower high. I mean, look how we're making lower highs every time. That's a good sign that we're probably going to push on lower, but you just don't know how far. So this is not a very good signal bar again. It is close to this double bottom. So I didn't mark it. You know, you probably could say, hey, let it break lower and drop a limit order, maybe back a tick or two and see if it'll push on down because we're steadily making lower highs here. You probably could even argue that there's another trend line across here like so. Looks like it would fit better here, but it probably does not fit really well on the lows. It's really hard to say because it just doesn't fit very well. Maybe it's two-tiered. See if a midline fits in there. Maybe that's it. That does fit pretty well now. So maybe there's a two-tiered channel there. Either way, you get a break of this down channel and a couple legs down to a new low and it reverses. This one, you don't really get a break and you get a break here, but you never make a bottom, a new low. So, you know, that's suspect. I mean, you can't argue that maybe there's not something there, but it, you know, it doesn't really give you anything. So I just didn't feel comfortable playing anything like that because I couldn't make it fit well. But anyway, notice we bounce here, we push through the EMA, we pull back, you get a second entry there, you make a second leg up, pull back, you bounce right off the EMA, it goes lower first, then goes out the other side, go long right there. Because that's a perfect reversal pattern after a break and a new low. And if you catch that one trade, I'd ride this all the way at least till this correction here. And that was the trade of the day right there. And then, of course, we're moving up. By this time, you kind of figure out, hey, this is one of those strong trends. Lots of dojis, lots of sideways, very small corrections. And notice right here, you actually get a pretty bullish pullback right here. But there's a doji in there, and there's 4 or 5 bars stacked up. But when it makes another bullish bar right off that trend line, and it's a little smaller, just go long because it's pretty obvious. You know, notice we're making higher lows there every time. Pushes up, it doesn't come back to the EMA here. Again, you're going sideways, but you're still making higher lows across here. And there's a bullish bar right off the key entry point. You just have to take it. And notice it works, and you get a correction. Again, we talked about this. If I had it to do over with, I would have taken it. But looking at it in real time, this is the far right of your screen, it just looks a little risky to me, especially if this trend line right here is right using the closes there. But you'll see it doesn't give you a really good fitting on the other side. So again, it was just really hard to know for sure. In the end, I think it was just a little trend down, a break, move to a new low, and it reversed. But it was hard to know that. There wasn't, you know, there's not a lot of price action there, and this thing has been very strong, but you don't want to get caught up in a reversal either. that might make another leg. Maybe this is just two swings in the first leg, and you don't want to get caught in something like that. So it just wasn't a very good trade when the thing's been so strong and you've had so many moves up. So it takes off again, and now look, you're starting to get those little dojis with lots of stems, and we're just going higher and higher. There is a break in a new eye, but remember those two legs will often just create a new trend line. And I drew that trend line there, and it comes right back to it right here. Gives you a fairly bullish bar with the EMA, the trend line, go along there. Comes back again right here, and I made this one green, but technically, you could argue for it to be blue. This is a little double top here, but if we're going to get another measured leg up, as I showed you earlier, we're still early in this trend. And it's right off a key entry point. So this could swing blue. It's real close. If it were my chart, I'd probably make it blue. We come back here, get another swing lower. It's a third swing back, bounces right off the trend line, another bullish bar, go long right there. Same thing right here. It actually makes a little breakout pullback, long, another bullish bar right off the key entry point. Just go long there. You don't know that it's going to do this, but you just figure it's going to keep working higher. And look how strong it got. It just takes off. I mean, look, there's there's gaps all up here, very little overlap. It just keeps on going. We already talked about this one. If it was at a key entry point, I'd probably say take it too. And there probably is a short-term trend line right here, but it still would have, you could argue that it's at that key entry point because notice how it still closes inside of it. Even though it opens outside, it still closes inside it. We don't really get a close outside until here, and I may just not have it drawn exactly right, so it still may not have closed outside. This might be just a little flatter, like so, and if do it like that, everything up through here is still closing inside that key entry point until maybe right here. So, but being that far away, being that strong and that far away from the main trend line, which is here, this would be a shorter term one, and they're more apt to fail or throw you off than the more. Look at this one's bounce prices. Let's see how many times on how many bars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11 bars that bounced off that line. So it's clearly the right, it's clearly a proven trend line. And that's what you want. The more times it bounces off of it, the more proven it is. Unfortunately, the more times it bounces off, so it means the longer the trend's been going, and at some point it's going to end, but you can't be guessing when. It was pretty obvious maybe here by the time we got up here off of this swing, and a third one, one little push up, and then it starts to correct. And we'd already had a measured move. The measured move was right in this same location right in here, so we were a little bit past a measured move. So that's a good reason maybe not to interrupt there. And that's why I didn't mark that one, because we already had a measured move in place. But that's back off this midline here where we bounced, and notice it bounced there. Notice it's kind of holding as resistance there. Then it's support. So we got a double test of it. So you could even argue for that one. I'll mark it green. But, I mean, that's a strong move. And it just, when you've been away from the EMA that long, getting that far up there, even on a real strong day, it's probably not going to be long. And you can see it wasn't very long at all till we came back. So, but it was a really good trading day, and that kind of got you. Actually, I didn't talk about these last couple. Let me back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back out there. I'm sorry. But notice this one coming down. You get a break, new low. Plus you got three matching lows there, and you get that little tick lower. I don't know if you can see that. How well you can see that. Get that little break lower, and then it turns and goes up. I like going long there. It's not the best signal bar, but you got that little trap, and it may make two more legs up to a new high right there. It just runs up and turns down. It really makes a double top here, and that's a fairly bearish bar, but I think I'd wait on a lower high. We get one here, but we're still kind of going sideways, I don't think I'd risk a short without a failure. And then you get a third attempt, and it kind of confirms that trend line working across there. It's a fairly bullish bar too, so you may trap some people. I did mark that one, and then of course now you're still working down, but you would expect soon to bounce off this and go the other way, and you get that right here. And again, you get that little drop lower and a fairly bullish bar, and you got room to get out before here, so you may take that one. And here we're just kind of going back and forth above and below the EMA, so we're more sideways here, although there is a slightly downward bias to it. So by the time we get over here, we've already gotten outside the 2 o'clock, so I didn't mark anything over there. But yeah, a really nice trend, a 25-point move, and so it was just a really strong trend and trading day to the upside today, although a lot of you probably will say you struggled with this. If you did, I understand why, because it just doesn't, you got to learn to spot how they look. Notice all the stems. Let me back out again here one more time. Notice all the stems on both sides. Doji's thrown in there. A lot of little bars go sideways and they go up. Sideways they go up. But notice how there's no real deep corrections. That is even though it doesn't look like it, that's a very strong trend. And then we get the 2-legged correction, then we get the next leg, and same thing, very strong trend, even stronger than the first one. And usually the first one will be the strong one, and the second leg won't, takes a little longer, but it continues to work higher, maybe at a flatter, more 45-degree angle. But today it worked just the opposite. And that's the beauty of the markets, just by the time you think you got it all figured out, it'll throw you a curveball. So don't think you're smarter than the market. So anyway, that's it for today. Not a lot of trades, but there were, most every one of them probably would have caught you a runner. Several of them would have caught you a runner, and some of them would have caught you a big runner. And if you caught a runner down here low somewhere and got to ride this up, you could have got a lot of points today. And, you only need one good runner day on a day like this to make up for weeks of scalps. Because if you could somehow get in down here and you ride this all the way up and there's a 25-point move, even if you only got half of that, it's 12 points, 12 or 13 points. That's 12 or 13 scalps. So keep that in mind. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I've talked enough today. We'll be back again and do it tomorrow. Hope you had a great trading day. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.